Welcome to My Cousin Innie, where we talk about Severance from Apple TV. I am Jamie G, the man with all the perks, and I am here with my co-host Magnum Mills to talk about the third episode of season two, Who is Alive?
Who is alive? And we have a lot to say. So I think this is an episode where we just need to get right into it, get past that spoiler warning, and start talking about it. Thanks again for checking out My Cousin Innie. We are presented by Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. You can find our content wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Find us on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff and on the web at dudeswatchstuff.com. Nice and easy to remember, just like the flaps, FLAPS. Very crucial to our success. Follow, like, and please subscribe if you had fun. Please make sure that you press the thumb.
From this point forward, there will be full-on spoilers for all episodes of Severance, as well as any articles, podcasts, interviews. If it's out there, we could talk about it. So this is your warning. If you don't know, now you know. Let's get on with the episode details. Mills, hit us up.
All right, as Jamie G said, this is Who is Alive, Season 2, Episode 3, the 12th overall episode of Severance. Once again, it is directed by Ben Stiller. This is his 8th episode he has directed on Severance, written by Wei Ning Yu. This is the first written by credit on Severance. Guest stars include Gwendolyn Christie as Lorne, Merritt Weaver as Gretchen, Sidney Cole Alexander as Natalie Kalin, Kaylin Aldrich as Asal Ragabi, and Yul Vasquez as Petey Kilmer, appearing as a voice here on the speaker at the end. The short plot synopsis is Mark, Helly, Irving, and Dylan search for answers. Jamie G, I think they're just like the rest of us here, searching for answers. Before we get deeper into the search, let's kind of kick it off with our overall thoughts on the episode. How'd you feel about this one, kind of just generally overall?
Really liked it, and I love kind of the blend between Innie and Audi, and then starting to collide those worlds a little bit with what we saw with Dylan G. Pretty cool stuff. The further exploration inside Lumen is so fun, and I just absolutely love it. And it's not just because of the incredible scene with the goats and everything. It's just I've always been a fan of that since season one, and I love that they continue to do that. It was fun to get Irving out of his cage a little bit here. And ultimately, Mills, I want to give it up for what I thought was a really just the directing and the way it was edited. That final scene was just incredible with a great needle drop here with Imminent Front. Super, super cool stuff. We got that a little bit, I think, in one of the trailers. Super awesome tune. If you haven't heard it, go out there and check it out. But yeah, overall, probably my favorite episode so far, Mills. Really enjoy out of season two, I should say. Really enjoyed it. Kind of perfect balance of mixing in and out. But again, we found ourselves with more questions than answers, but I think that's to be expected.
Talk about needle drops where Mrs. Covell hit play on the tape deck, and it does seem that she's
True.
using tape deck technology. The Stone Roses jar was not something I've not legitimately heard that since the 90s. I owned several Stone Roses CDs. I was very impressed. I remembered most of the words and everything like that. But yeah, that was a choice. And they made some choices in this episode, and I liked almost all of them. Surprised me a couple of times. They accelerated some stuff. I didn't think we were going to get the visitation thing so early. I didn't think, obviously, we would have reintegration on the table so early. I think it all worked well. The episode was paced very well. Never a dull moment. Lots of interesting stuff. Yes, we didn't get, a ton of answers or anything, but I thought the world expanded quite a bit here. We saw again more of Dylan's wife. We met his whole family here. Yeah, you're kind of getting a little bit more shades of what Irving might have going on. No Bert here, but we do go back to O&D. We get more goat stuff. You got Helly, you got Helena, you got a little bit of everything here. So I think it was very enjoyable. I'm probably there with you, probably my favorite thus far of season two, but I have enjoyed them all. So, knock on wood here. I think I've liked each one maybe a little bit more. So let's see if they can keep that trend going. I think that would be super awesome. And it's also super feasible. The show's been great.
We didn't specifically discuss it last week, so maybe we should start out here by talking about the opening credits sequence. Is it possible this could be any cooler or creepier than season one's? I mean, this is a wild opening sequence, dude. Very, very, very cool in my opinion.
You could honestly slow this down, and I did at least slow it to 50% and watch it once, but you could probably slow this maybe down to about 10% or almost watch it frame by frame, especially at the very end. The great image of, Innie Mark kind of coming out of, Audi Mark's head. Great. Mark's head is balloons, just Cobell is kind of the face in the sky. I mean, just incredible stuff here. So, one of
Yes.
my favorite, Game of Thrones is still probably near the top. Sopranos, definitely an HBO kind of has cornered the market on my favorite intros a lot, but I think this is it's getting close to getting on the Mount Rushmore here, especially if they're going to tweak it a little bit like this every season and just absolutely love it. And it just shows you how much detail, how much work that they put into the show here. So
It is awesome. And Mills, we talked a little bit about the needle drops in this episode, but let's give it up to just this just, I don't know, eerie melody. Dun-na-na, dun-na-na, it's kind of, it works so well, dude. It's simplistic, it's eerie. I won't say scary, but it could be. It just works. It's such a great melody to go along with what I think is an incredible opening credit sequence. And just, I don't know, dude. This one to me, this was hard to do. I don't know if those were computer generated or drawing or what type of tronic this is, but shout out to whoever did it because it is freaking awesome.
yeah, I'm right there with you. I really thought the episode opened pretty strongly here. I guess we're meant to assume Mrs. Cobell, after she took off from her confrontation to Mark at the end of the last episode, was just trying to book it out of town, and this is as far as she got. She appears to be out in the middle of absolutely nowhere. We only see the one truck that wakes her up. She passes one house, and we do see a sign that indicates Salt's Neck is 238 miles away. We get another shot of that respirator thing we saw in season one. We believe it probably belonged to her mother. And cool stuff here, but we don't get much with Cobell outside of that. And then the big kind of final scene she has with Helena again when she goes back to Lumen. And did you take away anything from this opening sequence with her in the car other than the needle drop by the Stone Roses? Why did she turn around? Any particular reason, or just plot necessitated it?
Well, no, a couple things here. One, I mean, you pick up right away. She slept in her car, right? And it's cold out there, and it didn't look like she had a bunch of blankets. I mean, that looks like cold, barren, frozen land. And she didn't have any much blankets. So this lady is tough, dude. Not only does she have like the intense face that she gives you, but you could tell she's tough. She's sleeping out there in the cold. Number two, I obviously she changed her mind. I think she's being strategic here, and we saw it in episode one with kind of this mental negotiation she's got going on with Helena. And it sounds like she found it looked like she found a way, and she was going to go back and try to, put that to action here. And I think we saw a little bit of that at the end, but then her response to that is just like, dude, she's either outsmarting everyone and playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers, or she's just like, you know, swinging and a missing here left and right on what she's trying to get out of this relationship.
Great acting job by Patricia Arquette, because she tells,
Yes.
we can even get into the conversation that she has with Helena when she goes back, and she pulls, I don't know if she thinks she's bluffing or not when she says, "Oh, you need me."
We didn't have to ask you back. You didn't have a choice. Are you sure?
And Helena's like, "Are you really sure about that?" Again, it's a similar version of what we saw in the last episode. That's probably my only complaint. I wonder why she comes back and basically has the same conversation over again. I don't think she gained any new leverage. All that really happened in between is she had that confrontation with Mark and drove away. Is it, that there's just nothing else out there and she feels forced to come back to Lumen? But we do pick up on the fact that she started Cold Harbor, whatever it is. That's her thing. She wants to come back. She wants to see that through. And so I guess maybe she has even more answers to the Gemma thing than we might have thought originally, right? She's not just involved with it, she might have started it.
Yeah. And 100%. And I think the thing is too that it's a little bit different this time. Same conversation, but dude, her intense staring at you is like, I wonder how much it would cost to get her on this, but just to like do like a 30-second like intense stare. Because dude, she is intimidating with that thing. You don't know I would hate to play poker on with her. You have no idea what she's got, what she's willing to do. But outside of that, she wasn't willing to go. Little meatloaf here. She won't do that. She wasn't willing to go into Lumen. she sensed something and shuffled out of there pretty quick. So I think that was the one big difference is she was comfortable enough to be inside last time in the conference room alone, not this time though.
Do you think it was actually a setup, or she was just maybe spooked for no reason? Because pretty quick, Helena says, "Oh yeah, we got the board." Was she maybe picking up on like, hey, it's the middle of the night here again? If the board isn't actually like a group of humans, probably not as big of a deal. And I don't know, she looked at the security guy and just, I mean, but she ran away too, kind of. She was just she got out of there real quick,
Yeah.
like the dude was going to chase her or something. So at least it felt, very real that she was definitely afraid. I'm very curious as to where she will go from there. We could check that out probably when we're talking about predictions and stuff here. I will note that once again, Helena called her Ms. Cobell, and then when she was running away, called her Harmony. I feel she was pretty solidly Mrs. Cobell for a long time here. So we saw Milchek last episode refer to as Ms. Cobell. Just kind of interesting here. This is a show that chooses its words very carefully. So perhaps it is just them trying to relate to her in a different way to get her to listen or something like that. Or maybe there is a little bit more to it. And again, this is the kind of show where anything is possible, more or less. So
Yeah.
it's all probably in play there. This is theoretically the only stuff we get from Helena here, unless you believe Helena is acting as Helly as the Innie. Anything really you picked up on from her here in this interaction with Mrs. Cobell, or pretty much same thing as last episode, more or less?
It's kind of the same thing. I mean, I think they both think they have the leverage, and they both think that they both think they have the nuts, the nut flush here, right? And but I don't know that either one of them do. And I think that's what's so interesting about it is we'll see, right? And but she was confident, and so was, it seemed like maybe she gained a little bit of an edge, obviously with Cobell running out of there, but more of the same as last week. But I think they recognize the intensity between these two is pretty incredible. They decided to go at it another scene, so see if they do it three in a row next week.
If you really want to go all the way with the poker metaphor, I would say that both of them feel like they have a strong drawing hand, but their other opponent hasn't made their hand either. So perhaps they are both correct. That would be my read on the situation. Probably not
They're
a
both chasing.
banner. Yeah, they're both chasing, but they feel like they got a lot of outs probably. So maybe they got a straight flush gut shot or something, like something absolutely crazy. You got a big setup there, suited connectors, at least a little bit of something going on. Probably not the biggest episode from Irving. He gets a couple of little seeds about him being nervous going out and doing the big look for Miss Casey. They're going around with the missing posters. Did Irving draw those? I'm kind of curious. I'm assuming Irving drew those. And again, I'm pretty sure Lumen is that's a nice little quote there. I'm pretty sure Lumen is watching them, and you actually do see later on when Milchek's at his computer that there's surveillance logs. So yes, Lumen is lying to him. Big shocker there. But then
Well,
we
and
do see.
you see with Miss Wong watching Dylan G and his, like she's literally watching and listening in. So, so I think that's you see it a couple times.
Yeah, in there, maybe I guess there would be some expectation of being filmed, maybe, but they're supposed to be in private everywhere else. So we'll see if that is actually real. They do have their official hall passes. Irving even shows it off a little bit, pretty proud of it. And he goes back to O&D, gets to see Felicia, who we met last time. He shows her some very nice pictures of Bert. And he's got a lot of pictures, right? He says he drew one every day. That's a lot. I mean, maybe more time passed in season one than we thought. I always thought that season took place over a couple of weeks or something, but maybe it was more like a couple of months, or maybe he's been drawing these for longer than we think. The big development is here when Felicia's looking at these pictures, she sees the picture of the dark door, the dark elevator, whatever you want to call it, and she recognizes it as the exports hall. She says they used to go there, but now they send a guy. I don't want to get too deep into the speculation here, but is this a good little bit of movement forward on this front, at least for you? I feel like we're getting somewhere now a little bit.
I think so, and I think this is, they could kind of knock out a couple of birds here with one stone, because you got not only could it move along Irving's situation with kind of who he is and how long he's been there and what he knows and what he's done, and it can unravel into something else, but it could also kind of move the storyline together a little bit at the same time. So I like this a lot. I will say I had no idea Irving. I know he's like got the painting thing and everything, but homie can draw. Those were just lines, dude. He did perfect image of Bert just simply with a pencil and lines. Nuts. I mean, it was like that so hard to do, man. Like shout out to Irv, dude. Boy can draw it up.
I've always felt that way about anybody who could draw. It's like witchcraft to me. I cannot draw a straight line with a ruler. Trust me. That's why no one will ever ask me to cut their hair. At least I have that going for me. Definitely a nice moment when Felicia talks about Bert a little bit. No Christopher Walken in this episode, but mentions the only time she saw him scared was when he spent 2 hours doing his hair before he went to see Irving. And I think that might be bullshit just because Christopher Walken's never had a bad hair day in his life, I'm pretty sure. From every time I've seen him, I swear to God, I've never seen the man have a bad hair day. And I've seen Christopher
Yeah,
Walken for pretty much my whole life. He's been around, so the man has excellent hair.
he really does. I don't, but I do like that he had a little bit of pregame jitters on his way to meet Irv.
Oh yeah, he was definitely a little bit nervous there. And so was Dylan. The one thing I had trouble picking up on maybe the first time was when Dylan is kind of like, no, I just want to keep working. I couldn't figure out if he knew that he was going to have something else going on or he was just legitimately trying to work for the perk. I thought at first he knew, but then when Miss Wang comes to take him to the visitation center, he seems totally shocked. So I don't think he knew that ahead of time. So is this just the perfect perk for him? Is he legitimately like he's so into this that he's going to do whatever it takes and keep working and kind of ignore all the other stuff?
The first thing that I thought was the same thing. Like, all right, he knows he's almost, I won't say he's a spy, but he knows that he gets something no one else does. So he's just going to kind of like try to hang on to his friends, but earn that. And it almost felt like he knew he had something, like you said. But then he was totally like, "Where are we going? It'd be cool if you told me." He was so nervous. He even asks his Audie's wife if he's in trouble. So clearly he was taken back by it. But at the same time, whatever he knows that Milchek said to him, it's hit him hard enough to where he's not going to play any of these games to potentially get in trouble. He's going to be focused on doing what they ask. And one more request, Mills. I think the only thing the show has done that I don't like is make Milchek's first name Seth. It just doesn't work. It's so bad. Everything else is great. Everything else is great.
You just want it to be Michael, right? Michael Milchek. It just flows
Yeah,
off
yeah,
as like Mike
Mike,
Myers.
Michael. Yeah, I mean anything with an M. I mean, dude, Seth is just so he does not look like a Seth at all. It's just so bad. Like,
He could be a
I don't
George,
know.
maybe George Milchek. I could kind of buy that. He looks like a little bit, maybe like a George.
George, Fred. I just don't. It's just I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. The Seth thing.
Maybe a Frank. Maybe he could be a Frank. I mean, he's no
Yeah,
Pondy,
Frank.
but I guess he could be Bill Milchek. I mean, that's got a little bit of a flow.
Bill
Bill
Milchek. Bill
Billy
Mill.
Millie, you know what I mean? So that could be a Bill Mill. Like that's not
Will.
a
He could
bad.
be Will. Will
Yeah, yeah,
Milchek.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Will Milchek. I like that dude. That's I'm not saying he has to change his name, but we've weighed in, and ours is better. So we'll say that way. What did you think about the whole Dylan thing? I will say on the walk there, I love that he asked Miss Wang again about being a kid again. He's like, yeah, I'm sorry, but but this is just like I kind of need an answer for this. So I feel like again, they know the audience wants this, right? So we're gonna get one that's they keep teasing it. So I think that gives me confidence. They wouldn't be pointing it out explicitly if we're not going to somehow get an answer for it. But hopefully she is not being held there against her will. It doesn't seem like it. What did you think about the whole bit about meeting Dylan's wife? And then they go full bar later in the episode because then we actually get to see his Audi, see his kids, and see his wife going off to work the night shift. I think my theory of her being another Innie or something is probably dead, but I will point out they work at different times, so anything is possible. Maybe she is working for Lumen or something like that. But I guess this is it for Dylan, and he's all in. He only gets 18 minutes. I think his wife might like him better than his Audi too. I will say that they had some good chemistry, and it didn't look like so much for his Audi. You couldn't be bothered to just cut the cookie out of the tube,
Right.
and that's not a metaphor, just literally to cut the cookie out of the tube.
Yeah, he couldn't. I know. He didn't even know how to do it. A couple of things here. I thought it was a great scene. It made me think a lot about, wow, you know this person, you live with this person, you see him every day, but it's a totally different person. And it was almost a chance, to your point, for her to date her husband again, right? And get to know her husband again, this version of him, and see how different that is. I was kind of bummed that it's like, oh man, I don't know that we're gonna get conjugal visits. That would be very cool. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. And even despite there being BE, there was a little banging energy between husband and wife there. But despite the BE, we're not going to get conjugal visits unless, that would be very weird because Miss Wong's going to be watching and listening in. So I don't
Well,
think
I mean,
so.
HBO is incense. Apple TV can have banging your spouse, but it's not your spouse. I don't like the
Right.
not
Is it
spouse. I mean,
cheating?
like,
Yeah.
I mean, that is part of that does actually get at the whole question of this show, though. Is it still you? And this is
Right.
a really interesting way to put it. I thought it was surprising that she said he had trouble keeping a job because I thought he did well at that the door interview until the severance thing came up. I thought he was doing great, really.
Yeah, and maybe it goes to show you that to be severed, it takes a certain type of person, right? And it was kind of weird for Dylan's innie to be like, come to the realization of, oh, so he's kind of a fuck up. Like that kind of was a weird moment for him too, a little bit, where I mean, that would be, think about that.
Well,
That would be
he
a weird,
idolizes Audi, right? He used to talk about how the dude did like lifting contests and all this kind of stuff, and like he was
right,
like very convinced, more so than the others. I think that his Audi was at least cool.
right,
And his
right.
Audi seems fine, but I don't know if you would, you know what I mean? He doesn't seem quite as cool or as suave or as buffed up as any Dylan might have hoped, possibly.
Yeah, I agree. It looked like she might have been either security guard or police.
Yeah,
Did you
some
pick
kind of
up on the same
uniform like
thing?
that. Yeah, something along those lines. I don't think we've actually ever seen a cop here. I would assume they look like regular cops, but we don't know necessarily where we are. So perhaps that's what the police look like. I was with you though. It felt like security guard or night watchman, that kind of thing, or something like that, because it was at night as well. So something along those lines. I mean, maybe, you look at Dylan, you look at these guys, maybe who you are as an indie has to do with why your Audi is doing it. Mark did it to kind of separate himself and he was much happier that way. Dylan wanted to be better at his job. He's better at his job. I don't know, maybe there's something to that. You don't really know how they come up with these indie personalities. Is it something that's programmed at all? Is it just something that comes from something existing or whatever? Is this kind of like how Dylan wishes he was? Or, again, there's a lot you can read into it, but you are right with that BE. I really think his ex-wife was feeling this, and she might be calling Lumen back and being like, "Hey, when can I come visit again?" Right?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if that materializes. There was something there. It's fascinating. I think that's one of the cool ideas about, makes you think about this show is you put yourself in that situation, you're like, wow. And again, 20 years ago, this would have been like some radical thought, but we're literally talking about putting chips in people's brains right now. So I mean, it's very fitting. It's weird that the world doesn't look like the world there, and I think that just adds to the intrigue. And these moments with Dylan and Dylan's innie and his Audi's wife, it adds to the intrigue because it just, it just makes you think like, wow, that's a crazy thought. I really enjoyed this scene.
Yeah, talk about a crazy thought. That's probably the first time he ever got a hug, and also probably the first time anyone ever said "I love you," other than those weird videos they watch.
Yeah. Yeah, his innie probably has never felt a hug
Yeah, well, yeah, we
or
don't know what goes
that
on at the
emotion.
waffle party, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you do get a hug at the waffle party at some point. I guess it's possible.
But have you felt an emotion like someone loving you before, or happiness, or like it's interesting, I know they've felt fear and nervousness, but
Right. I think they want him to just love Lumen, ideally. And this is something that they talked about on the inside of the episode a little bit that, yeah, this is definitely his favorite perk now. If you're looking for the proper carrot to have in front of the donkey, when you talk about the carrot and the stick, this seems to be the ultimate reward. You have to feel from here, Dylan is, if you thought he was working hard before, right, he is going to be all in now, I would assume.
yeah. Oh yeah, I mean Lumen has him. They basically will do anything for Lumen now because he's gonna be chasing that. He's gonna want that again. We'll see if he turns on his friends.
And we do get a little bit more of the Lumen stuff, mostly via Milchek and Natalie. I will say, Milchek, cool office. Actually reminds me a fair amount of some of Don Draper's offices in Mad Men. But Don Draper would cry. If you look at his little mini bar there, it's just water and coffee. That's kind of sad for a mini bar, right?
That's not a mini
In a
bar, that's
corporate
a coffee
office, yeah,
bar.
that's the hydration station.
Yeah, that's terrible. That's you just put in a water cooler, dude. You don't need a stand. Mini bars are for bars. Like, I mean, who drinks straight mix?
Yeah, who just drinks mixers? I mean, at least get some boat fuel to mix it up with. I did love how disappointed he was to find Mark's balloons. But what did he think was going to happen with those balloons? Mark was going to carry him around like a kid at Disneyland?
Right. Yeah, it was weird that it was interesting that they still had, I mean, that's high quality helium, number one, but you almost forgot about him from that first scene. But again, what a shot. The all bright white with the blue, just such visually, it's just so cool looking.
Yeah, it definitely popped a little bit there. Probably the weirdest moment of the episode is when he gets into the office. Natalie's there. She's on with the board, and they present him with these paintings. I'm not sure how deep he is. Like, is he a true believer? You know what I mean? Like, the first time I watched it, I'm like, oh, this is disturbing him. Like, he talked about being as a severed man before. I was like, oh, as a black man, this might be rubbing him the wrong way, let's just say. Then the second time I watched it, I'm like, maybe he just is drunk the Kool-Aid that much, but then looking at him putting those away at the top of the closet or burying them mostly. I don't know, man. I don't want to get too far into the prediction aspect of it, but maybe this is one of the first cracks in his relationship with Lumen. How did you read this? How he interpreted these paintings, especially when you hear Natalie. That was really weird, right? The board is telling me to tell you that I really like this when they gave these paintings to me when I got a promotion. It's again such weird syntax leads me to believe the board isn't necessarily your typical boardroom of humans or such.
Right. Is it just AI generated? And Natalie looked to be AI generated. In all of her communication, expressions, the way she spoke, the
Not when
words
she was
she
talking with
used.
Rickon, though. She seemed very, but she didn't have the headset then. Like whenever
She
she's
didn't have
on
the
with the
headset
board,
then.
yeah, it feels like it's one of those matrix. Like she's just relaying whatever comes into her ear in a weird way. But he's talking like they listen through a speaker. That's also kind of weird. Like why wouldn't they just talk through the speaker? Why do they go through her? Is she translating? You know what I mean? There's a lot of questions for that.
The speakers, like every other piece of technology other than their cell phones, incredibly outdated. I will say I thought he was taken back and almost like I don't know if it could have been offensive, right? Like it could have been like he was offended and upset and bothered by this, but also could have been like maybe a holy shit moment of, I could see myself as one of the founders of the, you know what I mean? Like, but I'm leaning more towards the this is too much
Yeah, it's a
kind
bridge too
of.
far, I think. So when they gave it to
Yeah.
Natalie, do you think it showed Keira Egan as a woman then?
No idea. That's an interesting
You know what I mean? Because
question.
if they were customized to herself, assuming she's not lying here and she got the same gift, that would be how they would present it then, I guess, right? That's so it's just, I guess, another perk you get to a certain level, but a really weird one and a really kind of tone deaf one. Do they expect people to hang these at their houses then?
Yeah. It was
Weird,
weird.
just weird, uncomfortable, and in a way that Severance isn't typically, but I didn't mind it, and I like adding more nuance to Milchek. And honestly, I like spending more time with Natalie. She's kind of popped in and out, but mostly as a mouthpiece for the board. Here we get to see her interact with a couple of different groups of people, most notably when she does go over to Rickon and Devon's and talking about him with his book or whatever. For the record, she is Natalie Kalin. I guess that sounds fine, but again, picking through what she says, she even refers to the board as it at one point, not them.
Yeah.
And again, a show that's just so specific with language. Did you get anything from her in that exchange with Milchek? When I thought the actress played it great. I couldn't tell if she was like somewhat sympathetic for him or just trying to do what the board wanted. I really couldn't read it. It was very ambiguous to me. Did you pick anything out? Kind of coming off of her.
It felt like a test. It felt like they may or may not continue on with Milchek and that they're continuously watching and they wanted to see how he would react to something. Is he willing to go the all-in loyalty? I won't say this was a loyalty test, but I think she was paying keen attention to his reaction. And I think he picked that up too, and that's why he was, I'm grateful and those kind of things. But and it was weird that he was upset about the balloons, number one, and then just bad timing, right? Because you come in and then she's there and you're upset about the balloons. So maybe the balloons were just simply so he could have something to be upset about heading into the in there. So she caught him off guard. But I picked up on it more of like, let's see how he responds to something so far-fetched, so borderline offensive, so pushing the boundaries and see if he's all in or not.
Yeah, so she's pretty much then a pure creature of the board, then, right? She is she's all in on Team Lumen for that, more or less. Then you're thinking.
I think so. And the interesting thing is who's to say that, yeah, they have the severance procedure, but what if they have another procedure for people who are working there, but maybe they're not severed, but they're just, kind of.
Yeah, she appears to be the same person when she's talking with Rickon, but it's not impossible that it is a slightly different version of her, maybe. Did you get anything from that scene? I love that Rickon seems so proud of himself, but I don't know, man. It's rubbing me the wrong way a little bit. I feel like there's something more going on with Rick and whether or not he's already kind of in cahoots with Lumen. Maybe they're trying to get him on board because they're worried about Devin. Maybe he had a past history with them, and that's why his writing speaks so much to the innies. I did like the reference to an innie specific cut. It's a shout out to not shout out, but Pete Innie wants to say he invented the remix. He's gonna have to reinvent it from jail, but apparently Lumen invented the innie specific cut.
Yeah, it's Rickon is he provides some fun and some humor without necessarily trying, which is good. It's just his character is fun. So I always am a fan of him getting in there, but you could see kind of the tension brewing in his own house with Devin, his wife, but then also over this Lumen thing. But you could see, and you kind of got it tail end of last season into this season now. You can kind of see he is really committed to kind of and in favor of, he's on Team Lumen. And I think that's what jumped out here more than anything. And I don't know if he's just, they're playing him for a bigger cause and he's so easy to manipulate and to placate to that it's easy to do, or if he really is, there's something that he's got some sort of history there. Something's going on though.
The one thing that I couldn't help but notice every time I watched the episode was when Devin asked, like, hey, did they ever figure out how your book ended up on the severed floor in the first place? They kind of share a quick look and gloss over it real quick and never come back around to it. That just set off my little alarm bells in the back of my head a little bit. Just felt like, yeah, you know what I mean? That should have been something that they care about a little bit. And the fact that the way he reacted to it, I don't know. I'm definitely worried there could be a little bit of a collusion going on there. And of course, she's leaving him there because she is going to go meet with Mark and they're going to try to burn this message into his retinas. And he's timing that at the beginning of the episode. I did not understand what he was doing at the beginning, but it was fun to watch, right? When he's just looking at the watch trying to sprint to the car. I'm always a sucker for the ticking clock. I figured out he's trying to figure out how long it takes, but this isn't exactly where I thought they were going with it.
No, it's not, and I liked it because it was cool to kind of see just the process leading in, and what he has to go through. But it was a wild, it was weird that that's what he was getting at. I don't know that it's possible to do that, but hey, who knows? But I do like the development of his Audi trying to work with his innie, and I think that was the big underlying factor there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you would toast your retinas to get something that bright that's going to burn it in there for that long. I've accidentally looked into some stuff before, and yeah, you'll just kind of, when it's that bright, you'll lose the message, really. It won't be kind of burned in there. But that led to an interesting point. Mark's Innie and Audi both kind of react the same way, right? When he's actually confronted on like, well, what was the next step then? After that, he's like, oh, how are you going to get a message out? And he's like, oh, my Innie would figure it out. And then when Helly asks Innie Mark, like, all right, what are you going to do if we find Miss Casey? He's like, oh, I'm just going to get her to the doorway and my Audi will figure it out. So their basic plan is the other guy is going to do the work once I do this little bit. So I like that they both kind of came up, they wound up going down different roads, but wound up in the same place more or less. I would typically believe that most of the stuff we see on the Audi side is real, but was Mark's kindergarten teacher really named Miss Lustgarten? That's like the fakest. Like I don't. I mean, he kind of like plays it off a little bit, but it was like almost like they chose a name that was designed to sound kind of fake.
Yeah, and they made a point to say it a couple of times because he has to repeat it and be like reminisce on it. It's not any worse than calling, Mr. Milchek Seth, but other than that, I mean, it was weird. It's a bit of a mouthful.
Mr. Seth Lustgarten would work though. That's where Seth works. Seth Lustgarten.
Seth
That's
works
good.
there.
Seth
Yes.
Lustgarten. That's a solid Seth name. And there's nothing against any of this. Like Seth Gecko. Good Seth name, dude. They're out there. Seth
Yeah,
Green,
Seth
solid
Gecko is a
Seth name.
great Seth name.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're out there, dude. There's nothing. It's not. It's not like Todd or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah, can't be having a thought. Oh, that's the one thing I forgot to point out about Natalie. I do think she has a little bit of OG Ashley potential. If you watch The Boys, you have Ashley Barrett over there, one of our favorite characters, and I don't know. I get a little Ashley vibes from Natalie. I'd like her to stick around, maybe get a little bit more involved. Could be cool.
Yeah, that would be very cool. Good comparison there.
And you know what else was cool? We finally got it. The goat department, although it's technically mammalians nurturable, that sounds like a really sketchy pyramid financial scheme kind of deal or something like that. That it says you're gonna, help animals, but really they're just taking your money and funneling it down. Look out for the goat poop on the way in. We saw this in the teaser, a little bit in the trailer. We've been waiting for this in season one. We don't find out what the goats were, but we do get to see Gwendolyn Christie. Shout out Brienne of Tarth showing up as Lorne. Do not know if she's named after Lorne Michaels or not. Did you like this, man? I will say, man, that is a huge area. Just how big is all of this? I mean, that's a crazy big room. I wanted to have it its own weather. It's so big.
Yeah, I mean, and they did that intentionally, but like you get in there and you could see them taken back, and you cannot wait for the reveal. Again, from a directing standpoint, shout out Ben Stiller, really incredible job here. And then you finally get the camera to kind of span out, and you see, I mean, there were hills. I wouldn't, not mountains, but there were. It was people were hidden behind the hills. This thing was massive, but this was a huge room. Grass that was real grass. Um, mounds of dirt and everything else. Wild stuff here. Wild.
I thought all of the stuff here was really cool. They made the goat people pretty creepy, right? The reveal of the dude kind of looking with the goat head, that was like out of Scooby-Doo or something, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It was that was like, ooh, wow, is he gonna there was a moment there where you're like, are they gonna actually like hurt them or something? Like
Oh, when they
this kind of
surrounded
wild.
them when she rings the bell and
Yeah.
they all show up, and then you kind of cut back and they're all surrounded. That was again, this is where I'm kind of wondering in here, is it Helly or is it Helena? The one thing that I noticed is she neither of them really seemed that impressed to see grass. Like, wouldn't this be
Right.
their first time seeing grass?
Yeah. Yeah. Or yeah, I mean, first time seeing grass, first time like being able to well, an animal too, right? I mean, it's not like they see
Well, they saw the
animals a
baby
lot.
goats the
They
last
saw the
season, but
baby
that was
goat,
it.
but yeah, but these are, and they were taken back and like, whoa, but still, yeah, it would be a big development here. I don't know how the grass grows in there. I mean, it's just regular lighting. It wasn't like,
You can grow grass. It depends on the spectrum of the light, probably. I mean, they have severance technology. I'm going to assume they figured out some way to, maybe it's just sod. They keep bringing it in there. Who knows? They seem to have kind of infinite money. The other thing I picked up on is when they showed Lorne the flyer at the desk, you could see her starting to get agitated. Helly was like, yo, let's get out of here. But then when they're surrounded, all of a sudden she pulls out the thing and starts showing it to everybody. It was just kind of interesting that she acted like kind of completely different in those two scenarios, because it felt like season one Hallie would have been the one out there pushing, like, where is she? This is what we're doing. I can't tell if that's because it's Helena faking being Hallie, or perhaps she is a bit conflicted about, again, what happens if they actually find Miss Casey.
yeah. And so you don't think any way possible this is some sort of virtual, like it was virtual reality with the grass and the goats and stuff, right? I mean, you're firm believer that these are actual goats.
I think it has to be, especially because what we saw last week, there's actual goat poop. Is that virtual poop then in the middle of the thing? You know what I mean? There's enough detail with it. What they're doing with it, I have no clue. People have speculated it's like a way to tuck people's personalities in there, and even that's why like they have the people kind of half dressed as goats or something like that to ease the transition. I don't know if I buy all that, but I did love the callback that they said, "Oh, we're not there to kill you," and then they checked them for pouches.
Right.
I
Yeah,
was
that
trying to
was
double check. You did see Mark's belly button. I don't think you can see Helly's, trying to make sure that they're not clones or something like that. 'Cause that's also a theory.
Mills. Did they have innies or outies?
I didn't do that much, but they did. I
It
didn't
was an
go
innie. It was an
do
innie.
that much research. I guess that's a question you should really know on this show. So I guess that is very valid. We care about the innies and the outies, but they are pouchless. So if I wouldn't mind having a pouch, probably sometimes. It's a pain. They don't. It's really hard to put your phone in your pockets these days. The phones are getting pretty big. Little movement on the Ms. Casey front. They do admit that she was there. They think she was retired, but I guess a little bit of movement, and they won't interfere with them going forward. So I'm guessing we're going to get more of them this season. We can probably save that a little bit for the speculation there. Again, any other thoughts about how Helly is playing this with, Mark's feelings for his Audi's wife here? She seems kind of jealous here, but she seems to be a little bit all over the place, which I guess is actually how it would be for a real person.
I think so. And they had a moment. they had a moment for sure where they kind of came together. It looked like they were going to kiss. Mark got like, didn't know what to do, and this kind of, and she thought it was cute him having to stumble around his words and what he wants, and but showed it, and so I think they had a moment. You can tell there's still talk about BE. There's still chemistry there too, and I think it's if anything, it's combative for Mark because he knows like, hey, this is my Audi's wife. I should be seeing this through and trying to connect them. But man, I'm really into you. And what, and what does that mean? So I think that's just another cool angle here.
And now I'm trying to remember the titles of the other tracks off of that particular Stone Roses album to see if anything can relate, because that's how deep this show will make you dive. And that's not even the craziest stuff Mark gets into in this episode, because at the very end, all of a sudden, Dr. Ragabi shows up and reintegration is on the board. She straight up tells him, your wife is alive. Do you believe that after hearing that, Mark instantly makes a decision, despite what he saw from Petey, to opt for reintegration? He's like Thunder Guns, a man. No hesitation, no surrender. It's like, yeah, I'm in.
I think so. I think he just is so desperate to try to figure out an answer. And you almost feel bad, man. Like you almost feel bad because I just think he's so, and even when that wasn't there in season one, that desire, something was there because he was just drinking himself into a oblivion every night, eating Cobell's shitty cookies, right? And so I- it's you feel really bad for this guy, but I think he'd be willing to do anything to get an answer.
Total got me completely by surprise. But again, the one thing we have to bring up here, how did she know where he was? He like drove to the middle of nowhere, like behind a garage in the dark to try out the rig for his eyes, right? How did she find him? Is she watching him? Is she tracking him? Is there any chance this is like a full-on Tyler Durden? I didn't think so because she whacked the guy in the first season. But could that have, looking back, we've never, like, that's the only time we've seen another person in the mix with them. I don't think that, that we're in that kind of Fight Club situation here, but it was weird enough that it made me ask some questions.
Yeah, and I think she has to be either following him or is Lumen behind it and Lumen knows and Lumen's following him. Is all of this part of the plan? That it got me thinking that way where like, is this part of the cold mountain or whatever? Like, is this part of it where you give him access to both? Yeah,
Right.
who
Is that the
knows?
next step or something like that? And
Right.
that could make some, because I couldn't figure it out. It seems like they're in Mark's basement, right? When they're doing all this,
Yeah.
but that's a lot of gear. Like, wouldn't
Yes.
somebody notice? Is she just, we didn't see her car? Like, where did that, again, I don't have that many questions, but that's, I don't know. Was it there already? If it's there already, why was it there? You know what I mean? It is super interesting. We didn't see it down there when Petey was there in season one, assuming that is still Mark's basement. But again, it's just this show just, there's so many questions you can ask. And I think he played it about as well as he could, right? Because he saw Petey's brain go to mush in real time. And she says she's better at it. I don't know if we can necessarily believe her, but I do believe that Mark, like you said, at this point, he'll take whatever chance he can get. That's why he underwent severance in the first place. But man, this was just, the sequence itself was just so cool, right? It was a little bit old school 80s sci-fi almost. You got the two lines, you're trying to get them to line up. And I will say at one point, this must be Lumen's endgame here, because when she asks him what month it is, Mark replies, do you mean what quarter it is? Isn't that the dream? We're corporations that people, they don't even care about all they care about is the quarter. They don't even, the
Well,
fiscal
and as soon as
quarter,
that happened, I
that's it.
knew I knew it was his innie, and that's how powerful that was. Though it worked because as soon as he said that, I was like, oh shit, he's actually flipping back and forth here. I thought it was cool. It was interesting that like she went a little bit too hard at first, and he started getting like a hand seize up thing, and then that went away, and she dialed back down. It's like how great is this technology and why are we doing it on like outdated technology? I just the technology question in the show is one I really hope we get an answer to at some point because when they're working, why are they working on the original computer like from like 1981? Like why are they work, you know what I mean? Like why is but then Milchek will answer a cell phone.
Well, I think they're just trying to be deliberately anachronistic here and keep it vague to be that way they don't have to worry about that, but it is
But
weird.
again, it's a show that does everything with intention. And it's not just that, it's the cars that are in the parking lot. It's like there's got to be something to that where it's they're trying to tell us something here, because that's a huge difference from current day to what they're portraying. And they had a choice. Why do it that way? Eh, You know what I mean? Like you could
Right.
just
It's like at a certain
go,
point, some technology stopped moving forward while other technology still did. They hit a certain point with cars or something, and they're like, "Oh, that's good," but they have modern looking offices that they keep changing, as we saw in the Lumen video, and in metal detectors and cell phones, like you said. Like a lot of it feels pretty modern, but very specifically, some stuff doesn't. Like you said, the computers, the cars. It's a really interesting thing they're going for. I don't know if we will get an overall answer for it unless there is kind of it ties into the bigger question of where are they actually, right? Are they that far in the middle of nowhere? Are they in a simulation on an island? Who knows really? They could be just about anywhere as far as the way they've established it. I mean, I don't want to think that they're in the middle of space floating on the back of a turtle, but at this point, maybe.
oh, well, yeah, they could be. I mean, they could be at a compound in Russia for all we know. I mean, you have no idea where they are. Like it could be its own, you know, village where these people go out and think it's real life, but it's not. I mean,
Like a
who knows,
full-on
man?
Truman Show or something like that. I mean, we
Right.
did see the other team, like the Mark W. whatever, talking about was it Grand Rapids or whatever, staying somewhere, like moving
Yeah.
somewhere else. So apparently they do have access to the real world, or unless they were faking that just for us. But this doesn't seem like that kind of show that would do that just to throw us off. That feels like it would be a little bit disingenuous. And they've been pretty straightforward with things. Mysterious, yes, but not deliberately misleading.
Yeah.
Crazy end of the episode, right? I just did not see that coming.
No, didn't see it coming at all, and it was really cool. And again, the directing, and then we talked about the needle drop, just top-notch stuff for me here.
Yeah, how did you not use reintegration by the Cure though? I'm just saying.
I'm sure they thought about it. They for whatever reason they used the imminent front
The Who, right?
in the trailer, right? So I mean, it was and to be fair, college football used it a little bit this year too, which was pretty cool. So
Yeah, somebody must have lightened up on the licensing fee.
yeah.
It's usually what happens. That's why. Remember, it was the year where John Denver was in everything. It's because something happened with his state and like the rights transferred, and the new owners were like, "Oh yeah, we're licensing everything out now." That's why that happened.
I think that concludes the episode discussion. Let's kick off our award tour here for Who is Alive. First, we've got our favorite alternate titles for the episode. Mills, give us the top three.
This was a fun one here. Definitely a lot of options. At number three, this one is probably a little bit of personal bias because it's been used in so many of my favorite shows over the years, but you have a good egg. That obviously marks a good egg, but we've also had Frank Reynolds very famously offer people eggs in a trying time. He had the whole egg thing on Arrested Development. So I'm a little bit partial to eggs, and also apparently they cost $20 a dozen now or whatever. So you got to cherish those eggs. A good egg is something to enjoy and cherish. At number two, this comes from the mouth of Cobell, dedication in industry. And we get a lot of that in this episode, right? You see the dedication of Mark trying to find out what's going on. Everyone's trying to get answers, figure stuff out, but it's hard to beat that industry, man. You got to have both because industry is huge. It is everywhere and it encompasses everything. At number one, this kind of makes sense after having a little bit of a kind of two-part season premiere. Why don't we reset? This feels a little bit like it and literally happens at the end with Mark being reset to a different stitched up version of himself. So I think that would also have been a very cool one. Who is alive is fine. They take it kind of off of the what he puts on the big light there, but I think I would be partial to these. So we had a good egg, dedication in industry, and why don't we reset?
The next stop on the award tour is our favorite quotes. Mills, what is your favorite quote from the episode? You're up first here.
I get to do a little bit of a double bagger because I'm going to go with Natalie reading from Rickon's book.
Surely beer and juleps cannot fill the void left by love. Indeed, only wine can achieve this, but it is famously costly, which is why sadness is among the most recurrent issues facing the poor.
I never thought Rickon would spit truth like that.
Dude, spot on. Dating back since basically the beginning of mankind. Yeah, I mean,
People like their vino, man.
gotta love the wine, man. Love the wine. All right, Mills, I'll go next here. My favorite quote was,
I must be floor manager. I hear ego. Hubris. Arrogance. Care teaches us they only cause pain. Everything I accomplished, I earned. Through dedication and industry. Not because I was born into it. I think you've overestimated your contributions and underestimated your blessings.
If this isn't the biggest game of mind chess I've ever seen, I mean, they're both think they've got each other bent over here, but then you don't know which one's going to win. It just really cool battle here between these two. This is basically the Cold War.
All right, pop quiz, hotshot. Which Game of Thrones character would have said the line, I think you're overestimated your contributions and underestimated your blessings? Which Game of Thrones character would have said that?
Honestly, I could see a couple, but I'm gonna go with the Mother of Dragons. I could absolutely see her telling that to somebody that has all the power that she wants, and then she like kills them and takes their power and their and yeah.
I was gonna go with the spider. That felt like a Varys quote right there. That felt like
Could see
right
that
there for
too.
the Master of Whispers to drop that one. Feels like a very Game of Thrones esque quote though.
It does. Phenomenal quote. Great
You should get
writing
your head
there.
chopped
And
off right after that. That's the next thing you.
and I got to give it to Elena here too, because I'm telling you, you try to communicate with Miss Cobell, she is intense, bro. She's very intense. Patricia Arquette is nailing this with the face acting. It just wow. And then Helena's giving it back though in her own way. Really cool, intense scene. Loved it. Next up, we got our favorite scene or moment from this episode, episode 3 already of season 2 Severance. Mills. Go ahead, give us your favorite scene or moment.
I am going to go with a little bit of a cop out here and just take that the final scene, man. The whole reintegration thing was just absolutely incredible. It was completely unexpected. Great needle drop, great direction. Everything came together. I would have most definitely watched the next episode. And despite having to do this, despite how much harder it would have been to do it, knowing what happened, if I would have had the option, like if they gave you once per season, you could press a button and watch the next episode. You can only do it once. I probably would have burned it here after that.
Oh, dude, I cannot wait to see how they follow that up. It was super awesome. Yeah, that's way up there for me. But I'm gonna give it to I'm gonna just go just one word, baby. Goats. I mean, come on. Them crawling down, opening the door, finding what looks to be like a miniature barn with some hay, and then realizing the small little door in there, crawling through the thing, dodging the poop, and then opening it up, and you just see this vast, I mean, vast, huge. It was like they were on the side of a mountain in Scotland. I mean, it was unbelievable, dude. Really, really cool stuff here. I got to give it up for the goats being the goat so far of the show.
Hey, go to ass.
Goat boy. Shout out to Sandler too with was it Goat Boy? Yeah, it was Goat Boy.
Yeah, it'll go. Yeah, it was. We're all gonna laugh at you, right? I think there was a
Yeah.
fair amount of goat related whatnot on there.
Yeah, it's a good one. Let's break out the big trophies, starting with our episode MVP.
All right, man. This was a tough one for me. In episode 1, I went with Dylan. Episode 2, I went with Milchek. Here, I'm gonna eat the chalk a little bit and go with Mark. He was in both of our favorite scenes, right? He was in with the goat stuff, and he was in with the reintegration at the end. Plus, he had the cool bit about trying to do the burn your the singing into your retinas thing. All worked for me. I think this is the time I'm very happy to eat the chalk. Go with Mark S. Innie plus Audi. They were both getting it done this episode. Jamie G, episode 1, you went with Milkcheck. Episode 2, you went with Helena. Who's your MVP for episode 3?
Definitely could see Mark there. Good choice. I'm gonna go with Dylan G though, man. I just thought the what's going on with him in terms of the innie versus the outie and two drastic things. In a way, Mark's innie and outie are somewhat connected in that they have this a similar goal, right? Dylan's, I think it's two separate missions between Dylan's outie and Dylan's innie. So and same thing with Irving's innie and outie, right? They kind of have a similar mission going. Dylan, he kind of has he's two different people here. I thought it was so cool, just this concept that he got that time with to meet his Audi's wife. Really cool. And then getting to kind of see a snapshot of his life at home. I'm giving it up for Dylan G here, man.
I'm with that, man. I've seen Zach Cherry in a lot of stuff, especially over the past few years. He's always good, but he's been especially phenomenal here. And I love the way he's played everything this season. And I didn't expect to get this soon, but I thought he handled it phenomenally. So I think that was a good call right there.
Final stop on the award tour is our episode grades. We're each going to grade the episode on a scale of 0 to 100 Kier coins. And yes, we're spelling coins with a K. I'm up first here, Mills. Episode one, I was at 83 coins. Episode two, I bumped up to 84 coins. Mills, here we are, episode three. I'm bumping up again, 86 Kier coins for this one. I thought it was an awesome episode. There really wasn't any slow parts. You got some stuff moving along. They keep kind of pushing the boundaries. I keep getting wow moments. Got two or three of them in this episode. Just fantastic television here. 86 Kier coins.
I like that a lot. Episode 1 and 2, I was at 85 Kier coins for both of those. I'm also bumping it up a touch here. I'm going up to 87 Kier coins for this one. My favorite episode of the season. And this is one, if they really pay off this cliffhanger here, I can see myself upon a rewatch, even bumping it up a coin or two here. Really enjoyed it. Thought it was great. Again, I've enjoyed the whole season thus far. I thought they had a really high bar to clear coming out of season one. So far, so good. We haven't gotten that epic 100 Kier coin episode yet, but I'm very confident about the progression we've got thus far.
Yeah, I think we'll be spending some. I think we'll be in the 90s here pretty soon. They keep moving this way.
I like the trend. The line, the graph's doing the right thing. We like the graphs that move like that.
Absolutely. Let's keep going up. Last but certainly not least, we are going to talk about our favorite theories, ask questions, make predictions, just some, endless speculation here that we love so, so much. Mills, go ahead, lead us off by telling us about the next episode. Yeah, I think she's got a. I think she's staying. It's a fluid plan, but I think she's going to try to stay one step ahead in her move, and she will have another move, and it's not just running away. I think she's pot committed here. She's going to try to keep getting what she wants, and if she runs out, I think she's going to do something to create the leverage she needs to get what she wants. So we have not seen the last of her in her pursuit of seeing it through.
Okay, I'm going to go with she was right. They need her so that be it Natalie or someone's going to come crawling to her and they're going to somehow bring her back into the fold. I don't know if that necessarily means replacing Milchek or whatever, but I'm going to go with she was right. She's got some hand in the situation. How about Milchek, man? Is there any chance that the painting thing kind of just rubs him enough of the wrong way that perhaps he starts to break bad a little bit against Lumen, or is it just going to be kind of business as usual?
I think it'll be business as usual. I think it's going to take more than that for him to start to break bad. He did tuck it way up top, deep in the filing room. So it'll be interesting to see if that comes back up, like why he didn't hang it on the wall next time Natalie comes in or something. That'll be interesting. And I got one here, Mills. I'm glad you clarified that it's woe as in WOE because I thought it was going to be like a Black Rob thing, like whoa. And that would be different, right? Different connotation. Woe is me. Do you think maybe Mark finds out more than he wants and feels a little bit down about it?
Entirely possible, and that's probably the big one we have to dance around a little bit. We see Mark begin reintegration here. You have to wonder, can that really be a permanent thing? Can we go through the rest of the series with both of these guys doing this? Then he'll have to fake it when he goes into work every day. Is that viable? Will he maybe have to make a choice to resever himself or something like that? I'm very
Right.
curious about that. I think those two things kind of tie together, right? Any thoughts on the reintegration thing here? Is it going to work? Is it going to be permanent? I mean, that's really the big one, I think.
Yeah, it looks like, while it might not be, she mentioned she's better. I don't know that it'll be fully permanent. It kind of struck me as like, hey, this is a way to kind of, take a hit, be somebody, and then you come back down to earth and you go back to normal, so to speak. So I thought this was kind of a way for him to be able to, what she's saying is communicate with the innie. But I wonder if maybe he bites off more than he can chew here.
I think that definitely is possible. How about Ragabi here, the doctor helping him out? Is she on the up and up? Is she really just trying to help out severed people? Is she just anti-Lumen, or does she have maybe another agenda here?
Yeah, yeah, this is really interesting. I think that she's got to have another agenda. I just don't know that it just that's what makes most sense to me now is her having an alternate agenda and something that she's trying to she's not what she says she is kind of thing. Otherwise, it's like, what is she, just a scorned lover of Lumen who's trying to, get revenge or whatever? I mean, what is her point? Why was she that invested in Mark's world to where she tracked him down in the middle of nowhere and kind of talked him into doing this? So there's got to be something at play here. I'm going to go with right now, and this is fluid. I'm going to go with she's got a different angle.
Yeah, there's definitely something else going on. I can't tell if she's aligned with the resistance. She has her own goals, or perhaps she is still working for Lumen on some level. This is the kind of show where there could be, 5 layers to a reveal. The triple cross kind of thing is not necessarily out of play. I don't love it when shows can go to that length, but I think they've kind of earned the right here. And as long as they can pull it off in the end, I think I will probably be cool with it. I think this is the obvious one. Is Dylan's Audie's wife going to cheat on Audie Dylan with any Dylan?
I think so,
At
and
least
I
it's an
think it's gonna.
emotional, even if it's not necessarily physical cheating, at least emotionally.
I think there could be a little emotional cheating here, 100%. I think you kind of saw that snippet that maybe she's not as happy in her life with him as she thought she would be, and kind of meeting this new version of him where none of that stuff is there. Yeah, I think you could see it.
One thing you pointed out earlier was just how good Irving is at drawing, and we see that even his Audi likes to do paintings. Would it make sense that he probably worked at O&D at some point then? They're the ones doing all the art and the painting and everything. And if that's the case, maybe he went to the exports hall before and that's where he knows it from. That seems entirely possible, right?
Yeah, it does. It really does. And again, we talked about it a little bit in last episode or after the first episode, I think. Maybe he's done more than just work at micro redefinement, right? Like maybe he's done something else because he's the one that kind of has this alternate knowledge as an Audi. You never know how long he's been there, what he's been doing, et cetera, et cetera. This was really cool because it starts to move that story forward, and maybe it'll be really interesting when we find out who he was talking to on the phone. But his innie is getting these messages from his Audi though, and vice versa. So he's figured it out. Mark should just go talk to Irving because Irving figured it out. You don't have to do the reintegration. Irving already knows.
I'm very curious. My guess is at some point, I don't know if we'll get a full on Burt centric episode, but my guess is at some point we're going to get an episode where we get quite a bit of Christopher Walken. Then we'll see how that works out. I'm not exactly batting 1,000 on these predictions so far, but you can't get a home run if you're not taking swings. Let's put a little bit of coin down on something. Jamie G, if you had to make one solid wager with your Kier coin on something that'll happen at the end of the next episode, let me ask you this. Would you bet on Mark still being reintegrated at the end of the next episode?
No.
It's tough, right? Like you wonder kind of what's going to happen with it. I don't feel like you can
Yeah.
go the rest of the series as a reintegrated person. I don't think that would work. If they're burning it this early, there's got to be something else, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna lean into the temporary thing. I mean, it's only episode 3 of season 3, which we think there's probably gonna be at least a fourth season. So yeah, I'm gonna say that's gonna be tough, man. He's got to come back from that. I mean, that's just you're basically talking about doing half the series with him reintegrated. I just
Right.
don't see that.
Yeah, it seems a little bit much, or it'd be tough to keep it up. I wonder if that means that we will get a little bit of movement on the Miss Casey front. I will put a little bit of coin down on some point this season, Rickon's going to do his Innie only cut of his book, and they're actually going to bring him in to read it. You know how I did the reading party in season 1? They're actually going to bring him like to the Severed Floor to read the Innie's only cut or whatever to the Innies. That's my prediction.
I
put a
do
couple
like that a
books
lot.
out.
Yeah.
I feel confident that might happen.
Love it or hate it, Rickon's going to stick around, I think.
Another Game of Thrones reference, right? How many shows do you know of 2 dudes named Rickon? Although Rickon in Game of Thrones got a pretty short thrift and it was spelled differently, but yeah. 2 Rickons.
2 Rickons. Yeah. And, you know, he could have just ran just a little bit faster.
Serpentine, again. You got a serpentine. That's crucial when you're running away from the whatnot.
Yeah.
Even Babu knew that. Again, hate to bring Archer back into play, but Archer even yells at Babu, the ocelot. You got a serpentine.
And just how bad was freaking Ramsey, man? Jeez. Hopefully we don't get a Ramsey in Severance. That's all I hope for is a Ramsey.
That would be scary. Yeah, we have not we haven't seen really like the true on, you know, it makes me wonder that. Have we actually seen the endgame villain yet? If they're gonna have one for Severance, is it someone we met or they're still like a big bad behind the curtain, you think?
Yeah, I think there probably is, and my guess it has something to do with the board or Helly's father. But you know, I guess we've technically met Helly's father, but not really.
Yeah, it could be the board. I mean, I think the interesting thing if it wound up being Helly or something, you know, and this is the kind of show that at the end maybe it turns out, you know, Mark was an Negan all along or something. I mean, I don't necessarily want the show to go there, but it's the kind of show that could do a rug pull like that if they wanted to.
Yeah, they definitely could. And that's what's going to keep the interest, though, I think, the entirety of the, you know, because you just never know where it can come from. Thank you guys for checking out another episode of My Cousin Innie. We've got a cousin and he loves this show just as much as we do. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And man, we love talking about theories, predictions. The wilder, the better. Send them to us, man. If you got some predictions out there, we want to hear them. You can drop a comment below, or Mills will let you know where you can find all of our social media, and you can slide it into those DMs. Mills?
You can find My Cousin Innie presented by Regular Dudes Watch Stuff wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Find us on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff and on the web at dudeswatchstuff.com. Very easy to remember, just like the flaps, FLAPS. Follow, like, and please subscribe. If you had fun, please make sure that you've hit the thumb. I'm Magna Mills. He's Jamie G. Thanks again for checking out the show, and we'll see you next time the elevator door opens. We might not remember it, though.
Sure. What month is it?
You mean what quarter? Wait.
What is your first memory?
I don't know.
Tell me.
I don't know.
Tell me.
I don't remember.
Tell me your first memory.
Hey there. You on the table? I wonder if you'd mind taking a brief survey. 5 questions. To start out, who are you?